Tomorrow, your former leader, our former Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, appears before the Privileges Committee. He is charged with not telling the truth repeatedly to the House of Commons and to the general public.
Well, hello then, I do hope you're all well. Now, this is absolutely brilliant. Our SNP MP for Ochil, sorry if I butchered it, I do apologise. SNP MP for Ochil and South Perthshire, John Nicolson, absolutely brilliantly shows what our spaffer Boris Johnson really is, a liar and a charlatan. And he did this so beautifully in yesterday's Digital Culture, Media and Sports Subcommittee on Online Harms and Disinformation, where he made our Minister for Tech and the Digital Economy, Department for Science, Innovation and Technology, Paul Scully, proper squirm.
Do you think that the UK government is trusted, Minister?
Yes, I think there's always political discourse, so I think there's always going to be political debate and different levels depending on the subject. But I think as an overarching organisation, the gov.uk website, for example, has been a source of trust for information in a number of areas.
Tomorrow, your former leader, our former Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, appears before the Privileges Committee. He is charged with not telling the truth repeatedly to the House of Commons and to the general public. His premiership has had a deeply damaging effect, hasn't it, on trust in politics and politicians?
No, I mean, the former Prime Minister will answer his questions in the Privileges Committee in his own way, and he will be judged by that committee. It's not for me to preempt that committee. But
I'm not asking you to.
But clearly, the period of time that we describe, things like partygate, which he's in front of the committee for, was a really hugely unfortunate time when people have been but have been seeing the suffering of their own families and their own experiences, and then to feel that there is a disjoint between politicians and members of the public is always terrible. It's not what we get into politics for, but
unfortunate and disjoint enormously underplays, I think, what people feel about
mainly
it.
Because
they saw a Prime Minister who was mocking the truth, as he's done throughout his political career. We know he's been sacked several times for lying by different employers. A phrase has crept into the body politic, and it's called post-truth politics. Trump did it, Johnson did it. You just spread untruths. You spray the public arena with untruths. So eventually people just think, you're in it to be dishonest, I'm in it to be dishonest. None of us can be trusted. And that is hugely, it's a success for the practitioners of post-truth politics. But it's terrible for the rest of us. And your leader was one of the foremost exponents of this school of political thought.
Well, John, I'm not in front of the Privileges Committee. I'm not a sort of witness in front of the Privileges Committee, so I don't want to sort of get involved in that. But I am, frankly, one of the biggest cynics when it comes to politicians and politics in the first place, because having run small businesses for 25 years, I've always tried to crack on and get on with my own life, my own business, my own personal life, and so I'm very much of a small government kind of guy. That if government can,
wow, tells you everything you need to know. Small government, yeah, in other words, deregulation and all that nonsense.
Find a way of getting out of people's lives. Fantastic.
It's a different issue.
So I will dip in. Well, no, because as I say, I think I don't want to get particularly involved in politics when we're actually trying to address some really serious issues about disinformation.
But Minister, politics is absolutely key to this.
But politics
isn't
is always,
because
politics is always going to be.
We've got to, at times of great crisis in our country, other times too, we've got to be able to trust our leaders.
You're right.
And
absolutely.
as the public begin to think that they're all rascals, take that Boris Johnson, not a word he said was true, he smirks as he tries to deceive us. It is his way of doing business. That affects all of us, doesn't it?
Look,
and it has a crucially damaging effect on our ability to persuade the public to listen to the experts.
But look, I think this is where what you're saying is rightly a political debate that should not be tempered, as opposed to the question that you asked earlier about Russian disinformation, which absolutely should be disrupted because it's trying to disrupt our election process. The political debate is absolutely valid, and there is a reason that Boris Johnson is no longer Prime Minister of this country. The parliamentary party. People have had their say, but we tend to judge our prime ministers. That's why we set a high bar through the ballot box. And
he wants to go nowhere near it, doesn't he?
And it's right that that's so.
This is not really about political debate, though, isn't it? Because we can debate ideas, and that's right and proper in a democracy. But when you move into an area that isn't about political debate, but it's about integrity, that's different. Now, you hear a lot of people on the left, they'll say to you, you know what, I disagree deeply with Margaret Thatcher, but on the whole, we think she behaved with integrity. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that, but people say that. Nobody says that about Boris Johnson, do they? He left a stain on our body politic like Trump. And it's not about political debate, it's about integrity and the effective functioning of our system.
I think what's also happened over the last 20 years since Margaret, and 30 years since Margaret Thatcher, is that we have moved into not just
post-truth politics.
A bigger. Well, no, what I was going to say, media has. Bear in mind, most of Margaret Thatcher's time in Parliament was not televised. The PMQs, parliamentary proceedings, were not televised even. And so we've gone beyond that now to social media, where you get immediate responses. And so we have moved to a more presidential style system, whereas there's a far bigger focus on the Prime Minister and indeed leading lights of
you think it's good in a way that we can catch politicians like Johnson when he lies?
What I'm saying is that people will take their judgment not just on the political debate, but on the leadership and the leadership qualities of the person that they see on a day-to-day, almost minute-by-minute basis on social media. So there's a far sharper focus on there around the areas that you described.
Absolutely spot on, John Nicolson. Paul Scully didn't want to go anywhere near it, did he want to touch it? I so enjoyed every minute of that because he basically just said what every rational person has been thinking and saying for years about our spaffer Johnson. He's a liar, and for me personally, a leech, and a vile, disgusting human being who puked and shit all over the rules that he set. He also set the mob on the leader of the opposition with his Jimmy Savile smear, knowing full well it was a lie. Now, I could go on and on and on about our slimy little turd's rap sheet, but I'd be here till next year, and none of us would have the time and interest to go that long. But just marvel in John Nicholson's dissection of the integrity and trustworthy of our spaffer Johnson. And I shall just leave the video here until the next time. I shall bid you farewell and take care, my friends.